Hi, I'm Jeff Byers. Welcome back, and we're going to continue rigging the character. We're going to focus on a reversed foot system. And so what we're going to do is make sure you have your IK system already set up and your joints are facing the right direction. Okay, so make sure you check all that. And when you look at it, we can see that they are facing the right direction, as you can see. Okay, and let's look at the other side. Sometimes when you mirror joints over, they are in the opposite direction. You can see here, the red is not facing downwards, it's facing upwards, the exact opposite of the way they should be. So you have to make sure that those are facing the correct way when you create them, and that's before you add the IK system. Okay, otherwise you could run into issues later on when you do any more rigging with this. But for right now, and to do that, you have to just click on the joints and go to skeleton and orient joint. Okay, so you can orient the joints, and you can see that now they're facing the right direction. And there you go. Okay, now I'm not too worried about the end effector. It's at the end of the joint. That's not, doesn't concern me much. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to the side view. You don't have to have your mesh showing at this point. So in fact, I'd probably take it out if you are seeing your mesh. The only reason why you want to have your mesh is to see the heel of your foot. So wherever that may be. But if I do show the mesh, you can see there's my heel, so I'm not going to go too far away from the actual ankle joint. You also need to make sure that these joints are named properly. So I'm going to take that off and look at the naming convention. So right now the naming convention is left underscore ankle underscore JNT. If I click on the down arrow key, it will go down the hierarchy, and up will go up the hierarchy. So we've got L ankle joint, a left ball joint, and left toe joint. And it's important that these are named appropriately. Okay? So next thing we're going to do is go to the side view and start creating more joints. So I'm going to go into click off, go into skeleton, create joints, go into the option box, reset the tool, close it, and we're going to start with the heel. Okay. So I'm going to click on the first joint, and I'm going to go to the end of the toe. So I'm going to hold the shift key down, go straight across, and then I'm going to click where the ball joint is, holding down the shift key, and then letting the shift key up. So just go ahead and pull off the shift key, and now I'm going to click on the ankle joint. I'm going to hit enter, and that's our reverse foot. So the first thing we're going to do is rename everything. So we're going to start at the very end here, and that joint is going to be called left RF heel joint. Okay. And the next joint, I'm going to hit the down arrow, and that will be the left RF toe joint. And hit the down arrow key, and the next one will be the left RF ball joint. And hit the down arrow key again, and this will be the left RF ankle joint. Okay. Right, so if you see that we've got a joint at the very end, so we're not too worried about how that is pointing, but if we look at how we set this up, we went from this joint to this joint to this joint to that joint, and that's the end effector. So I'm not too worried about what direction that is pointing, but right now everything's pointing in the right direction. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to duplicate this joint system right here. Control D, do Control D, hit the W key and move it over to this side. Okay, and we're going to click on this guy and we're going to move him over to this side. And what we're going to do when we click on this is we're going to rename this right underscore RF heel joint. Okay, and just hit rename that. And what we're going to do with these guys right here is we're going to go ahead and make sure that they're about as close as we can get them from the top view. So if I move this up to the top like that, you can see that if I move it into place, we're getting pretty close. And we'll do the same thing with this guy right here. Let's make sure I am selecting the right one. Okay, here we go. And just kind of get that into place. Alright, so get them very close. Right, and then we're going to snap these joints. They need to be snapped exactly in the center. So I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to click on the arrow key, go to the toe, and I'm going to hold the V key down and snap it to that joint right there. And then I'm going to go to the next joint and snap that one. Hold the V key down, snap it into place, and then I'm going to click on the top one, the left RF ankle joint, hold the V as in Victor, and snap it into place, and do the same thing for this side over here. Again, hit the F key and zoom in a little bit, and hit the down arrow and hold the V key and snap it. Go to the next joint, down arrow, hold the V key and snap it, and then hit the down arrow, and the last one is the ankle. So I'm going to hold the V key down and snap that into place. Alright, so those are looking pretty good. I'll come back in the next video and we will start adding constraints to the joints. But one last thing before we stop is we need to change the radius to something like 0.8. And so these will be a little bit bigger. And we'll do that for every single one of those. Okay, we'll stop here and make sure you do it to the other side. That way we can tell that these joints are the reverse foot. Alright, we'll come back in a little bit on the next video and we'll do constraints.